Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The bold and the beautiful spoilers state that Annika Noelle, Hope Logan, marries on October 10, 2025. The actress married actor John Patrick Amedori. The newlyweds spoke with people about their wedding, which took place on the Hunter's Moon, one of the most magnificent moons of the year. Continue reading and let's discuss the unique occurrence. Annika Noelle's wedding on October 10th, it was Hunter's Moon. It was one of the year's supermoons, which was both huge and near to Earth. In numerous regions, it occurs in different colors of orange. A special day and night, which is most likely why Annika and John chose to marry on that particular day. Annika and John married at Malibu Lakes The Lodge in an intimate autumnal ceremony. It's surrounded by about 5,000 acres of protected woodland. When the couple first began visiting sites, they decided right away that the lodge was the destination for their wedding. Annika and John's love for California and fall in New England were combined in their intimate autumnal wedding. Annika also said that the wedding had dark whimsy and wildness to it. Surrounded by nature, Annika and John are both 38 years old. Noelle told the magazine, "We wanted it to feel like we were surrounded by nature, almost like the flower arrangements were growing from the ground, and everything was lit either by the full moon or by candlelight." Magical Muppet Noelle joked that the ceremony made her feel like Gonzo being shot out of a cannon. Both appear to have a great sense of humor during the interview, and the ceremony sounds magical. In addition to being in the forest, Noelle revealed why they had the visitors completely disconnected. "This weekend wasn't so much about us, but about creating a moment of escapism for our loved ones to feel enveloped by love, joy and celebration." The wedding was about more than simply Annika and John's love. The pair made certain that the visitors got on stage themselves. Some delivered poems, while others performed other actions. Amedori further stated, "We paid our respects to their elders in connection to the land." The pair exchanged personalized wedding rings with a celestial motif. They also commemorated their background with a Celtic handfasting ceremony. Huge congratulations to Annika and John. "We wish you a life of happiness, love, and serenity." The wedding sounds like it was quite magical. Annika Noelle stood in front of the mirror in her small Studio City apartment in the fading light of a Los Angeles day, as the sun dropped low behind the Hollywood Hills like a hesitant lover saying farewell. The date was October 10, 2025, the Hunter's Moon night, but to her, it could have been any other evening in the never-ending cycle of rehearsals and retakes. She was 38, and her reflection revealed the faint lines left by years of playing Hope Logan on The Bold and the Beautiful, a character whose heartbreaks had become her own, both planned and unscripted. She was to marry John Patrick Amedori, the actor whose quiet intensity had brought her back from the brink of solitary 2 years ago. Their wedding at the lodge at Malibu Lake was meticulously planned. Intimate, autumnal, and laced with the dark whimsy and wildness they'd imagined together, inspired by California's rugged embrace and the crisp fall of New England, where she'd spent childhood summers chasing ghosts in the leaves. However, when she traced the exquisite curve of her engagement ring, a simple gold band with a single, flawless diamond that caught the light like a tear, Annika sensed the first break in the veneer. There was no doubt about John. He was the stable anchor in her stormy existence. The one who listened without judgment when she broke down after long days on set, where Hope's perpetual triangle of love with Liam and Thomas reflected her own repressed longings. No, the grief stemmed from a deeper source, one that no amount of handwritten vows or candlelit weddings could dislodge. It was the echo of losses that remained unacknowledged in the silent hours. The 2 miscarriages she'd admitted to the world in a glamour column 4 years previously, the infants who never breathed, the possibilities that vanished like mist at dawn. And now, as the moon rose full and hunter-sharp in the sky, Annika wondered if this perfectly orchestrated union was just another role she was playing. Hoping Logan finally had her happy ending, while Annika remained adrift in the subtext. She remembered the day John proposed in October 2024, on a path meandering through the Santa Monica Mountains, where they'd first kissed under a canopy of eucalyptus that smelled of dirt and promise. He'd recreated their history that day, a picnic at the Art Amusement Park in Los Angeles where they'd met. the strains of a jazz quartet playing the song from their first date. A vintage bookstore stop where he'd inscribed a first edition of The Great Gatsby with words that made her weep. To my wild one, in a world of illusions, you are my truth. She had said yes without hesitation, her heart swelling with the rare joy of being seen, truly seen, beyond the soap opera G.L. John, with his contemplative silences and the way his hand slipped perfectly into hers on silent hikes, had become her anchor. At 38, both seasoned by failed auditions and jobs that demanded too much, they'd found solace in each other among the industry's never-ending churn. Wedding preparations had been a frenzy of shared dreams. Annika had been looking at mood boards late into the night, her laptop shining in the faint light of their shared loft. Intimate autumnal, she'd murmured, picturing tables draped in deep burgundies and golds, wildflowers pouring from vases like secrets too big to bear, and lamps flickering against the encroaching twilight to emulate the hunter's moon's ethereal brightness. The lodge at Malibu Lake, located in Agora amidst 5,000 acres of protected woodland, had sealed it. The Santa Monica Mountains reflected in the clear lake, the air rich with pine and possibilities. They'd decided to forego phones for the weekend, creating a cocoon of escapism for their 60 closest friends and family. It's not just about us, Annika explained to the wedding coordinator, her voice firm despite the flutter in her chest. It's about giving them a moment enveloped in love, away from the world's noise. John had been her partner in every detail, his actor's eye for nuance showing through. He insisted on personal touches, like his readings from Khalil Gibran on the wildness of love and scriptural lines about redemption, perhaps appropriate for two souls who had negotiated their own scripted tragedies. Annika's losses had also instilled in him a quiet strength. He'd held her through the grief, his arms a testament to endurance. We're building something real, he'd say during those dark hours, his breath warm against her temple. And she tried to believe him, even as the shadows of what could have been crept in. But on this evening, when she slid into a modest silk robe and padded to the balcony overlooking the city lights, the melancholy uncoiled like smoke from a long-forgotten fire. The hunter's moon hung low, its orange tint spreading long shadows across the roofs, like a celestial hunter pursuing memories she couldn't escape. Annika remembered her mother, Elena, back in Boston, whose voice had cracked over the phone that morning. My girl, you're glowing. But remember, love isn't a set, it's the bloopers, the outtakes. Elena had raised Annika alone after her father left when she was 6, a fleeting figure whose abandonment had taught her early the fragility of vows. Annika had poured that into Hope Logan, the character who had emerged as a wide-eyed girl in 2002 before maturing into a woman divided between passion and principle. Hope, played initially by child actors and then by Kim Matula in a whirlwind of romance and betrayal, had taken on Annika's mantle in 2018, when she stepped into the role at 26, fresh from modeling gigs and little parts that left her feeling like an extra in her own life. Playing Hope had been both deliverance and punishment. The Logans were soap royalty, Brooke, the siren, Ridge, the eternal flame, but Hope was the moral compass, the virgin bride who waited for marriage only to become embroiled in triangles reminiscent of her mother's scandals. Annika had thrown herself into those scenes. Her 2018 wedding to Liam Spencer, which was televised live with confetti and cheering, only to disintegrate in miscarriages and manipulations. Hope's pregnancy loss in 2019, the miscarriage of little Phoebe. Annika sobbed real tears on stage, drawing on her own unhealed traumas. It's like living parallel lives, she said John later, as they lay entwined in lavender-scented blankets. Hope loses her babies and I feel it in my bones. John knew better than others. His own career had been a series of near misses, including a failed breakout performance in 3 Women, and guest appearances on procedurals that paid the bills but starved the soul. They'd connected with the daring of pursuing art in a place that devoured dreamers. You're my leading lady, he'd remark, kissing the scar on her knee from a childhood tumble, a memory of the girl who'd cartwheeled over New England fields, unconcerned about heartbreak. Their engagement had been a beacon, announced with a single Instagram post, a black and white photo of their hands intertwined, rings gleaming, captioned simply, "Forever starts now." The bold and the beautiful cast had erupted in celebration, with Catherine Kelly Lang Brooke, sending champagne and Torsten K. Ridge, toasting with a bear hug on set. Hope finally gets her HEA, they had joked, but Annika felt the irony cut like a dagger. As the moon rose higher, Annika's phone buzzed on the side table, drawing her back. It was a text from her best friend Mia, a costume designer who'd come up from New York. Can't wait for tomorrow. You've got this, Nick. John's the one who stays. She smiled faintly, but the words sparked a sense of panic. What if this was just another plot headed for the writer's room's trash heap? Her miscarriages continued to torment her. The first in 2020, during the height of the pandemic lockdowns, when hospital visits were limited and grieving was reduced to Zoom calls with John. She'd been 5 months pregnant, experiencing the flutter of life one day and nothing but silence the next. The second happened a year later, earlier but no less devastating. A betrayal by her own body that made her wonder if she was even intended to be a mother. We'll try again, John pledged, but the trying had been halted by wedding arrangements, as if joy could heal the wounds. She stepped outside, the crisp October breeze biting at her skin, and carrying the distant murmur of traffic like a lullaby for the lost. The hunter's moon illuminated the balcony in amber, and Annika closed her eyes, allowing memories to stream in unbidden. She was 7 again, in that tight Boston apartment, her mother humming folk tunes as she kneaded dough for apple pie, the aroma of cinnamon covering the pain of her father's absence. Men leave, but we build anyway, Elena would add, her palms flour-dusted and firm. Annika internalized this, becoming the girl who excelled in school plays, and relocated to Los Angeles. She was 18 years old, carrying a duffel bag, and having dreams that were too big for her frame. Modeling had been her access point. Runways in Milan, billboards in Times Square, but acting beckoned, and the bold and the beautiful delivered. The role of Hope had transformed her. Debuting in January 2018, she inherited a character steeped in legacy. Hope, born in 2002 to Brooke and Deacon Sharp, had navigated adolescence angst, forbidden crushes, and a virginity pledge that made her the antithesis of Brooke. Hope evolved under Annika's portrayal, marrying Liam in a magnificent 2018 ceremony attended by millions, only to suffer betrayal, a presumed dead baby, found alive as Steffi's daughter, and Thomas Forrester's relentless pursuit. Annika had gotten an Emmy nomination for those arcs, and her portrayal was raw with the sting of acclaim. It's therapy, she'd tell interviewers, but in reality it was exorcism. Hope's 2022 wedding to Liam, complete with fireworks and family conflict, aired 2 months after Annika's second loss, the on-screen happiness a bitter contrast to her grief. In 2023, John entered her life like a scene change at an art amusement park exhibition. A bizarre maze of installations with mirrors reflecting limitless variations of oneself. He'd been there with friends, doodling in a battered notebook, his dark hair flowing over eyes full of untold stories. Annika had walked in looking for a break after a rigorous table read, and their collision, literally her coffee spilling on his shoe, sparked an hour-long talk. You look like you're carrying the weight of 1,000 plot twists, he'd observed, and she'd chuckled, the sound unusual after months of silence. They discussed everything, even his modest films that never received mainstream distribution, and her fear that Hope's repeated heartaches were prophetic. By the end of the night, he had asked for her phone number, and 6 months later they were inseparable. Their love developed in subtle rebellions against the spotlight. They spent weekends in Big Sur, hiking until they were exhausted and collapsing on cliffs to watch whales breach the Pacific. Nights at their apartment, making pasta from scratch and arguing Casablanca versus. Before sunrise, John proposed on that mountain path, repeating their first trip, and concluding at an overlook where he dropped to one knee under a sunset-bruised sky. Annika, you're the plot twist I never saw coming, the ending that feels like a beginning. Tears flowed down her cheeks, not from delight, but from the horror of vulnerability. Miscarriages had taught her that happiness was fleeting, like a glass ornament hung on a rickety tree. As the moon rose, Annika returned inside, her robe murmuring across the hardwood floorboards. She poured a glass of red wine, Cabernet from a Napa vineyard they had visited last fall, and slipped into the couch, holding the script for Monday's show in her lap. Hope was slated to meet Carter Walton in a storyline that hinted at wedding bells, a comeback from Liam's tragic exit that fans predicted would fail. Irony strikes again. On screen, Hope rushes into marriage amidst sadness. Off screen, Annika approaches hers with caution, but the parallel unnerves her. What if John's stability was a mirage, the calm before the industry's impending storm? Auditions kept him away for weeks, leaving her in the set's fluorescent light, where co-stars like Lawrence St. Victor Carter offered sympathetic nods but little relief. The anguish intensified as she went through past images on her phone, carefully picked ones, avoiding the ultrasounds hidden in a secured folder. The first miscarriage was reported to no one but John, and the doctor's words, "It's common, you're young," rang hollow as she bled into the sterile linens. Quarantine heightened it. No hand-holding, just covered faces and John's voice via telephone saying, "We'll name her someday." The second was faster, a chemical whisper at 6 weeks, but the anguish multiplied, heaping doubt on want. In her glamour column, she wrote of her isolation, the societal expectation on women to bounce back, and how motherhood felt like a role she auditioned for but lost. "I am not broken," she had concluded, but at quiet moments like today, the words seemed written. A knock on the door startled her. John, fresh from rehearsal, his face lit with that boyish grin that always disarmed her. "Couldn't stay away," he whispered, bringing her into an embrace that smelled like sandalwood and stage makeup. He was also 38, his body lean from yoga and his eyes tired from another fruitless callback. "Are you okay? You appear to have seen a ghost." She paused before revealing the truth. "Just the moon. It's so full, like it's watching us, waiting for the fall." She told him about her fears. Miscarriages reappearing like unburied props. The feeling that their wedding, for all its whimsy, was a set constructed on sand. John listened as he always did, stroking her hair. "We're not Hope and Liam, Nick. No writers pulling strings. This is us, messy, real wild." He kissed her forehead, then her lips slowly and deliberately, until the melancholy faded like a tide. They spent the night planning aloud, their voices low against the moonlight shining through the blinds. The event would respect Chumash territories, paying homage to origins deeper than their own. Handwritten on linen paper, the vows promised presence rather than perfection. Her voice was thick with emotion as she performed her first dance to Etta James at last. Guests like Rebecca Budig and Kimberlyn Brown from the cast, interacting with John's theatrical friends, all determined to unplug and immerse. "Escape for them," John said, "but healing for us." Dawn crept in, bathing the sky in pinks and golds, and Annika rose, revitalized if not whole. The wedding day unfolded like a dream half remembered. The journey to Agora, windows down, wind tossing her loose curls. The lodge appeared like a fairy tale, rustic beams, lake vistas gleaming under the morning mist. Florists flocked, arranging dahlias and thistles in dark whimsy, with candles ready to be lit at twilight. Mia assisted her into the gown, which was a bohemian lace piece with vine-like sleeves that evoked the haunted elegance of New England. As people arrived, the air was filled with laughing. Lawrence St. Victor clapped John on the back, heart emojis in his eyes. Carla Mosley, former B&B alum, hugged Annika tight, whispering, "This is your unscripted win." Elena flew in from Boston, her eyes misty as she pinned a family brooch to the bodice. A silver leaf from Annika's childhood treehouse. John's parents, both painters from Chicago, told anecdotes about his rebellious youth, drawing comparisons to the man who had captured her heart. However, midway through preparations, in the bridal suite overlooking the lake, the melancholy returned as sharp as shattered glass. Annika stood alone for a moment, the mirror reflecting both her gown and the hollows beneath her eyes. She thought of the babies again. The first, a girl they'd imagined with her hair and John's giggle. The second, unidentified but dreamed in brief kicks. "Why now?" she asked the empty room, the hunter's moon still lingering in her thoughts like an omen. Grief was not linear. It was like a thief in broad daylight, taking breath from joy. Sarah, her maid of honor, entered with a delicate tap, carrying tea. "Talk to me," Sarah insisted, her voice reminiscent of old college evenings. Annika did, her words stumbling. The losses, the dread that marriage couldn't fill voids, and how Hope's fictitious weddings mocked her own. Sarah listened and then recounted her own scars. A divorce that left her childless by choice, a career cut short by illness. Sadness does not cancel love, Nick, it seasons it. Let it be part of the vow. Empowered, Annika entered the ceremony as the sun set, the lake reflecting the sky's fire. Guests gathered on the grass, unplugged and present, the air filled with pine and anticipation. John waited at the arch, twined with ivy and lights, his suit a deep charcoal that faded into the shadows. His eyes found hers, and in them, she saw collaboration rather than pity. The man who had held her through ultrasounds and empty nurseries. The officiant, a buddy from John's theater days, began with the land acknowledgement. We gather on Chumash homelands, honoring the wildness that sustains us. Then came the vows, Annika's voice solid despite the knot in her throat. John, you found me in the mirrors of that park, mirrored limitless but choosing one. Through losses that dug canyons in me, you've been the river that fills them. I swear to love you in the light and the dark whimsy, to construct with you what the world cannot scribble away.